Holy moly, dude. It's just giant. We hit 20%. Let's go. Pop out chat. Okay, there we go. Chat's up. Everything's up. So dude, this is giant. Holy moly, dude. Holy cow. It's sprouting. Boom. Oh, dude, there's no way. Ignore me trying to figure that out. It's just X gummy box guy. Whatever, for all going to watch, I might as well. Ooh, look, a purple ant. Dude, look at that. Holy moly. We need all the watering cans one can get. Which right now is only 20, but. So they said one graphics quality and Oh, you can't see anything. What about 5? Okay, when does stuff really start unload? Okay, so at 2, stuff really does start to unload. But at 10, you can still see everything. Oh, dude. Speaking of pets, you need food. Holy moly, dude. It's probably too late to be streaming about this, but this is so cool. Yeah, no one's gonna watch a stream, but
there were multiple tasks running at the same time. I think what I just explained pretty much sums up what I'm going to be talking about in this episode, which is kind of a part 2 to my task functions video that I made a while ago. Having the ability to do multiple tasks in the same script is something very powerful. That's pretty much with the use of coroutines, and it's important to understand that there is a difference between coroutines and task functions and why I made them in 2 separate videos. So this will pretty much be a continuation from my task functions video into another multitasking system that is honestly better than task functions depending on how you use it. And so that's what I'm going to be showing you how to do inside of this episode. Alright, let's think about this for a minute. You seem to really like my example previously with task functions when I created all these tasks represented as parts. So I pretty much brought it back, but this time with coroutines. So what's the whole idea of coroutines? Well, pretty much, it's kind of similar to task functions in a way how we want to create multiple threads to be able to run multiple tasks at the same time using the same script so that we can basically do a whole bunch of stuff simultaneously without having to wait for whatever is previously in the script to then run whatever else is underneath it. So we basically have these tasks here, and we have coroutine functions that relate to what we're going to be discussing about inside of this episode. So let's say we have task 1 and task 2. We want to be able to run these 2 tasks at the same time, but how do we do that? Well, what we would do is, instead of writing all of this inside of one thread, we can create a new thread and make it wrapped around inside of this second task we want to do, and this is a concept called multi-threading. So we would basically do that by creating a new coroutine thread and just slap this inside of task 2 so that we can run both of these at the same time. But just creating the task is not going to be enough. We have to actually execute the task as well by using resume to then actually execute the coroutine task that we created inside of our script so we can run task 1 and task 2 at the same time. Now, so far this looks pretty similar to task functions, but there is one key difference between task functions and coroutines is that we have the power to pause these multi-threading tasks using a function called yield, which basically says during execution of our coroutine, we can literally pause the task in order to do other things outside of this multi-thread first before going back into this task to do whatever we want the task to do. So basically, if we yield this task, then we're not resuming this task anymore, and in order to make this task run again, we would just simply use resume, get rid of the yield, and then the task would be running just like normal. And so if at any point we don't need to run the complete version of this task anymore, or just things in the script have changed, then we can just simply close the coroutine task and create a new one. So it basically just gets rid of our coroutine task that we had previously. And so this is just a couple methods used for coroutines. Yielding is probably the biggest game changer for these multi-threaded tasks inside of your scripts. And that's what we're going to be doing inside of this episode. It serves as task functions with more control over your multi-threading processes. So I hope that made sense to you. And now, let's get to implementing. Now that we understand it, let's use coroutines to create multiple threads so that they can all run at the same time using the same script. So on the right side next to server script service, we're going to hit the plus sign and we're going to create a new script. Before we start writing, here's what I want you to understand about coroutines, is that when you create a new coroutine, it should be placed inside of a variable. And when we check to see what this coroutine actually is, it's basically a thread object that has different functions that we're going to be using inside of this episode. So let's create a variable. And this one is going to represent our second task. So in double dashes, we're going to make a comment by saying task 2. And then down here, we're going to create a coroutine for the second task. So we're going to make a variable by saying local, and we're going to call this task 2 equals coroutine dot create. So this is pretty much the method we're going to use in order to create a new coroutine and set it equal to our second task. So in this coroutine, we're going to make a function by creating one inside of these parentheses. So we're going to say function, open parentheses, close parentheses, hit enter. So this is pretty much the general structure of creating a new coroutine and setting it equal to a variable. If we try and print the new coroutine that we just created, so let's drop 2 lines and then say print task 2. If we go into the game, hit test and hit run, and we look at the output, we can see what kind of variable our task 2 is. So it pretty much printed out a thread object, and all these numbers basically mean the location in memory that this new object was created in. This part does not really matter too much, but what does matter is that our coroutine that we created is basically a thread object that has functions that can be used to manipulate when